Hello, my name is Diana Kairulina. I am a professional tarot reader. In this series of videos, I will present an analysis of a tarot spread about Benjamin Netanyahu as a public political figure. This is not a diagnosis of a person, but an analysis of the archetype of power, pressure, historical role, and the turning points of fate. First, let us remember that tarot is a neutral instrument. We do not condemn or judge anyone. For a neutral foundation, we need to rely on facts. The first fact we are taking into account: Netanyahu was born in 1949, spent part of his youth in the United States, served in the Israeli Special Forces unit Sayeret Matkal, later became a diplomat and the leader of Likud. The second fact: his brother Yonatan died in 1976 during Operation Entebbe, an event that is often seen as an important symbolic knot in Netanyahu's political biography. The third fact: in recent years, he has been under strong international legal and diplomatic pressure. In 2024, the International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for Netanyahu, while Israel's relations with Europe became noticeably more complicated against the backdrop of the war in Gaza, and discussions about reviewing European Union-Israel agreements. In the first block of the spread, we will speak about the roots of the archetype where the politician begins. Block 1. The root of the archetype. Masks and foundation. Position 1 of the spread. Netanyahu's main archetype as a politician. Card 10 of Swords. Upright position. In the historical field, he appears as a politician of a difficult ending. He is not a figure of calm construction. The 10 of Swords shows the role of a person through whom tension reaches its extreme point, where the old path can no longer remain the same. This is the archetype of painful transformation, of transition to another level, of self-assessment and relationships, the need to acknowledge a difficult truth, to pass through the defeat of familiar structures, and to open space for a new stage, even if the transition itself is perceived as extremely heavy. The 10 of Swords shows us that, as a politician, he becomes not so much the source of change as the face of the moment in which the previous system has reached its culmination. This is not a mission. It is an edge. Position 2, his public mask. Card 9 of Pentacles, reversed position. The external image is built around independence, control, and confidence. But the reversed 9 of Pentacles shows that beneath this mask, there is a theme of losing resources and weakening support, because the foundation is woven from resources. This is the image of a politician who demonstrates independence, yet is forced to constantly revise his tactics, because the former sources of support may be running out or may refuse to function due to a lack of resources. His public mask is a tense attempt to maintain stability, where there is a perceived risk of isolation, the loss of a team, and the loss of financial and political capital. Position 3. The shadow of this mask. What is hidden beneath the external projection? Card 8 of Pentacles, upright position. Behind the external toughness, there is not chaos, but the ability to achieve results. In tarot, this is called professionalism. The 8 of Pentacles speaks of professionalism, attention to detail, patience, and methodical work toward a result. His shadow is not weakness. It lies in the fact that politics, in his case, becomes a machine of control. Everything must be calculated, refined, and brought into a manageable form. This is a person of long adjustment, where survival in power becomes a skill, a discipline, and a way of holding reality in his hands. Position 4. The ancestral and ideological foundation. Card 3 of Cups, reversed position. The ancestral and ideological foundation gave him the experience of making quick decisions that matter only over a short period of time. The reverse 3 of Cups shows an acceleration of events. Decisions are made in the flow, without long maturation, and they quickly lose relevance because the situation itself changes. At the core of his political style, we can see the skill of living in a world where one cannot wait too long for inner agreement. If a decision is not made today, tomorrow reality itself may replace it. Position 5. The experience of life between Israel and the West. Card the Hermit, upright position. This experience gave him inner distance. The hermit in the upright position speaks of concentration, self-analysis, and a moment when external time slows down while internal time accelerates. Life between different worlds may have formed in him not so much an ease of belonging, but the habit of looking from within, separately, from the position of a person who is forced to make decisions by abstracting himself from the noise of the environment and relying on his own understanding of meaning. This card shows loneliness, not as a weakness, but as a way to gather oneself before a choice, to change direction, or to leave everything as it is. Position 6. The military code. Card, Ace of Pentacles. Reversed position. According to this card, the military code is connected with an internal conflict around resources. The reversed Ace of Pentacles speaks of excess and of the experience of a divided mind. A person spends more than necessary, while thoughts, beliefs, and actions begin to argue with one another. In a political reading, this shows a strategy in which security may demand ever greater investments of strength, time, money, and human resources. At the same time, tension arises between what is considered necessary and the price that has to be paid. The main theme of this position is not strength itself, but the risk of overusing strength. Position 7. The figure of the brother as the myth of the hero. Card 10 of Cups. Reverse position. In this block, the figure of the brother is revealed as a disrupted wholeness of the emotional rear, not as family support or family value. The reversed 10 of Cups speaks of a rupture in harmony, tension in expectations, disconnection, and feelings that may disturb trust. In such a symbolic field, the brother becomes part of an inner myth about family, duty, and lost fullness, not simply a personal memory. This card shows that behind the image of a mission, there may stand a distorted image of family, where closeness, expectations, and mistrust are intertwined too tightly. Brief conclusion. The first block shows the archetype of a politician of extreme tension, not of a triumphant figure. At his foundation lies the theme of professional composure, inner isolation, and the constant overuse of resources. Outwardly, he may look like a person of control, but the tarot cards show that this control is held not through ease, but through discipline, tension, and the constant need to respond to crisis. His path does not begin harmoniously. At the foundation of his path lies the experience of rupture, accelerated decisions, and painful transformation. That is why his political archetype in this spread sounds like the figure of a historical knot, where the past can no longer be preserved as it was, and the new is born through heavy pressure. Block 2. Turning points in the formation of the politician. How the archetype of power changed. Position 8. The first inner oath. Card, Ace of Swords. Upright position. The first inner oath here sounds like a strong, conscious desire to act rather than wait. The Ace of Swords in the upright position shows an impulse of attack. Even defense, in this logic, becomes an active movement forward. With this position, attack is perceived as the best method of defense. Inside this archetype, there is a clear mental formula. Control over life appears only when the goal is named clearly, and the action is directed precisely. This is an inner decision to hold the line, move toward the result, and not surrender the initiative to circumstances. Position 9. The transition from personal trauma to political doctrine. Card 3 of Pentacles, upright position. The personal becomes political through decisive action, not through long reflection, analysis, or calculation. The 3 of Pentacles in the upright position shows a decision that is made already in the process of movement. Thought and action merge, and strategy is born inside the events themselves. There is no period in which a person reflects, reasons, or chooses in this way. Pain, experience, and inner tension could turn into a practical doctrine. Not to wait for the ideal moment, not to get suspended in doubt, but to act where delay is perceived as a loss of advantage. Position 10. Diplomatic experience in communicating with the West and the voice of Israel outwardly. Card the star, reversed position. His diplomatic voice is formed from the feeling that the chosen direction is constantly being lost and muted, as if it is dispersing and has no chance to be realized in the future. The reversed star speaks of hopelessness, pessimism, unfulfilled expectations, and the need to search for another approach. His experience as a diplomat in communicating with the West led him toward mistrust. He learned not to trust promises about the future. Therefore, he himself does not guarantee the future, but persuades others to see the danger. This voice speaks to the world from the position of an anxious forecast, where hope does not disappear completely, but it is not the main instrument. Position 11. The first rise to power. Card 9 of Swords. Upright position. The rise to power took place at a change of stages. What mattered was not only his personal political resource, but also the state of society, in which there was too much anxiety and too little clear vision of the future. The 9 of Swords, in the upright position, shows fixation on the negative, fear of the unknown, a feeling of instability, and the absence of guarantees. In such an energetic field, the one who speaks the language of threat, control, and strict composure is heard more strongly. His rise became a response to collective tension, when people are not looking for a dream, but for someone capable of naming the danger and offering a way to withstand it. Position 12. The first serious lesson of defeat or limitation, the defeat in the 1999 elections, and the temporary withdrawal from politics. Card Page of Wands, reversed position. The first lesson of limitation is connected with the loss of self-confidence and a clear direction. The reversed Page of Wands speaks of low self-esteem, indecision, and a state in which a person no longer feels the former inner fire because he does not fully understand where to go. This is the moment when power showed the boundary of possibilities. Impulse alone is not enough, and enthusiasm fades if there is no precise understanding of the goal. Such a lesson does not necessarily break a person, but it forces him to recognize that confidence must be based not on the mood of victory, but on a deep understanding of his own motives. Position 13. Return and strengthening after defeat. In 2002, when he became Minister of Foreign Affairs. Then from 2003 to 2005, he served as Minister of Finance. And from 2005 to 2009, he essentially led Likud and the opposition. The full return to the summit of power came in 2009, when he again became Prime Minister. Card 3 of Swords, upright position. In this position, the return is a rise through an emotional surge, an explosion of emotion. The 3 of Swords in the upright position shows a decision made against the background of strong feelings, stress, fear, or anger, when emotion becomes the engine of choice. He returned against the backdrop of an intensified public demand for security, toughness, protection, and mistrust toward former expectations of peace. The 3 of Swords shows that he returns as a rational manager and as a politician who knows how to work with collective pain, fear, anger, and disappointment. His strengthening takes place through the ability to work with accumulated tension, both his own and collective. Precisely when there is pain, fear, and an emotional surge, he feels like a fish in water and rises on these emotional waves. But this card warns, such strength gives the energy of a breakthrough, yet it carries the risk of decisions in which it becomes difficult to see other people's feelings and long-term consequences. Position 14, the late archetype. Card Queen of Pentacles, reversed position. In the mature phase of power, the archetype becomes heavier and more materially attached. The reversed Queen of Pentacles shows a focus on resources, status, stability, and security. But along with this, it also shows the risk of egocentricity and separation from deeper human meanings. The late image shows not so much a strategist of the future as a guardian of what has been accumulated. someone who feels the threat of losing support too sharply. Such a figure can preserve order and manage resources, but does so with inner tension because the feeling of security is no longer connected with trust, but with holding material and political ground beneath his feet. Brief conclusion. The second block shows that the archetype changed through tension, action, and anxiety. The inner impulse with the strong desire to control the course of events and not surrender the initiative. Personal pain turned into a political method through action, not contemplation. His rise is connected with collective fear and the absence of a clear future, while his return is connected with the ability to turn emotional intensity into political energy. But the late phase looks less free. There is more holding on, more material attachment, more protection of status, and more fear of losing support. This is a path from a sharp inner decision to a complex system of control, where strength gradually becomes not only an instrument, but also a burden. In the second part of the analysis, I will show the third block of the spread, which will reveal the reasons behind his decisions, and the fourth block of the spread, which will reveal the nuances of the pressure placed upon him.